Hey, what are you doing? What's happening? Good luck with that face. Hey, it's Nick Digilio. I have no idea why every time I do a video I talk about your face. I don't know why. I'm an idiot and it's become a habit now. So how are you and your face? This is my face. Sorry. Nick Digilio, thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. I do videos a few times a week. They cover everything. I do stories, I tell jokes, I talk about movies and books and theater stories and all kinds of cool stuff. There's like 160 videos. Scroll down, they go back almost a year. Tons of stuff here, check it out. And then go to patreon.com and donate. Because all the videos that I provide, tons of them, all the videos that I put on Patreon, all the bonus videos that you have access to if you donate. Some of those videos tell the whole behind-the-scenes story of what happened at WGN. You know, those assholes who unfairly fired me. If you'd like to get all the details about that fucking ridiculousness and unfair assholeness that happened at the car wash that was known as WGN, a once good radio station that now sucks. If you want to know the details, you got to donate. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Patreon.com/NickDShow. $3 a month, $25 a month. Every little bit you give helps. It helps keep these things going. The videos, the stories. I got a podcast, which is separate from this, but my podcast, new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. RadioMisfits.com, the Radio Misfits network, podcast network. You can find the podcast everywhere. You can subscribe. It's free. All of the stuff is free, which is why you should go to patreon.com/NickDShow and give now. Don't be a dick. Give some money. $3 a month. What is that gonna? What is that? That's a bag of Funyuns and a bottle of water. I think you can afford that. So kick it in. Help me keep these things going. The stories, the videos, the Patreon, the podcast, all that stuff. A little bit of money, man. Patreon.com/NickDShow. Give right now today. No excuse. Give now. Okay. I'm going to do some videos here that I've decided I'm going to do. Videos about unsung great movie performances. You know, a lot of great performances get lost in the annals of history or don't get appreciated like they should or get a little praise for a while and then that actor or actress is never heard from again. There are great movie performances, both lead and supporting, over the years and even currently that kind of don't get the recognition and the praise that those performances deserve. So I'm doing some videos where each video that I do, whenever I do one of these, I'm going to focus on one actor or one actress and one specific performance that that actor or actress gave that I think is unsung, that I think is praiseworthy, that does not get the proper respect that it deserves. These are great movie performances that are not praised the way they should be. Unsung movie performances. And the first one that I'm going to do is maybe number one on my list of the most underappreciated movie performances ever by a person who only made a few other movies and wasn't even an actor when they got the role in this movie. So the first of the unsung great movie performances is Jason Miller as Father Karras in The Exorcist. It's a stunning performance. And it is the core, the heart, the soul of the movie. You know, everybody thinks that the title The Exorcist refers to Max von Sydow's character, Marin, Father Marin. He's the exorcist. He shows up in the car. You know, he gets out of the taxi and shows up and stands in front of the light in front of the house in Georgetown with the silhouette, the famous Exorcist poster. That's The Exorcist. And everybody seems to think that it refers to Marin. But in fact, for me, the title of The Exorcist refers to Father Karras. The role of Father Karras, the character, for me, is the core of that movie. The movie is about his crisis of faith. The movie, everything that happens in and around that film, it is all about the character that goes through the most changes. The character that you watch from the beginning all the way through the movie and until the end, who has the biggest change, whose crisis of faith, whose test of his character, whose very core of his existence and everything that he believes is challenged in the film. That's what the movie's about. And through all the stuff that you see in The Exorcist, all the possession stuff, the head spinning, the green pea, the vomit, green pea soup, the vomit, all this, the crucifixion, the masturbation with the crucifixion, all of the scary, creepy, crazy shit that happens in it, all of the incredibly intense acting that goes on in it. The core of the movie is this conflict within Damien Karras, the character. It's the best role in the movie. It's the most layered role in the film, and Jason Miller is amazing in it. It is one of my favorite performances in the history of movies, and he's unbelievable in it. Now, I will say, he did get nominated for an Academy Award for it, for Best Supporting Actor. He did not win. He did get nominated for it, as did almost everybody. Linda Blair got nominated, Ellen Burstyn got nominated. The film was nominated for multiple awards, including, Best Director for Friedkin, Best Picture for the film itself. And it got multiple nominations, and clearly, obviously, one of the biggest box office hits of all time. It was a sensation worldwide. People were passing out and throwing up, and all kinds of crazy shit was happening at the movie theaters. If you weren't around in late 1973, early 1974 to truly see it experienced, and I did, I saw it in the theater. My dad took me to see The Exorcist when I was 8, in the theater, at the Gateway, theater full, people passing out, people going nuts, me shitting my pants as an 8-year-old watching The Exorcist. It was a phenomenon. If you don't, nothing comes close. Jaws, about a year and a half later, in terms of sensation and movie crowds and causing, lots of press, Jaws kind of came close. And then, of course, in 77, Star Wars came out. And then the world of the blockbuster kicked in. And everything changed for not the better, but the worse, because Star Wars. But anyway, when Exorcist came out, nothing like it had ever happened in commercial movies, in movie theaters, nationwide. And it seemed that all the attention was on all the crazy shit in the movie that you'd never seen before, all the insane stuff that a 12-year-old girl was doing, the content, taking on religion and Catholicism, and showing crazy special effects and heads spinning around and all that kind of shit, really crazy, scary shit that nobody had ever seen in a big-budget movie before. And as a result, a lot of the really great performances in it were forgotten or not given the proper respect, because it's a horror movie, first of all. And most performances in horror movies get ignored, or just, it's a horror movie, so it doesn't matter. Like Toni Collette in Hereditary. One of the best performances of the last fucking 20 years, easily. One of the greatest performances by an actress in movie history. And she didn't get nominated. She got some good reviews, but nobody really talks about how fucking great that performance is. Better than all of the Best Actress winners of the past 25 years, probably. And nobody really talks about it because it's a horror movie. Oh, God forbid it's a horror movie. But it's an amazing performance, and just because it's horror doesn't mean you can't be good in it. For Christ's sake, they gave all kinds of awards to Silence of the Lambs, and that movie sucks, even though Jodie Foster is very good in it. But my point is that horror movies don't get the respect they deserve, and because these performances were in a horror movie, and because it was a big box office bonanza, they're kind of laid by the wayside. When people talk about the best actresses ever and performances, nobody says Ellen Burstyn in The Exorcist. They say, oh yeah, I remember her in The Exorcist. But it's a great performance. Ellen Burstyn was amazing in that. She's one of the greatest actresses ever. And that movie is filled with great performances. Max von Sydow is great. Linda Blair is great. All of the supporting performances are great. Ellen Burstyn in the female lead is unbelievable. But the core of the movie, the singular best performance of that movie, is Jason Miller. He's unbelievable in it. The scenes where he's, after his mother dies and he's trying to, to come to grips with that. He's a priest who is dealing with a crisis of faith, drinking, smoking, and into his life comes this, this challenge of his faith, this possession thing, which is supposedly didn't exist for centuries and only in books and the Bible and stuff. And suddenly he is faced with this crisis of faith that he has head on by having to deal with this possessed little girl and the drama and the horrifying stuff that goes around with it. Damien Karras is the most interesting character in it. He's flawed, and it's a performance of deep conviction, and it's devastating. It's a beautiful, beautiful performance, and heartbreaking. Jason Miller himself, very quickly, not an actor. William Friedkin hired a lot of people who in The Exorcist who weren't really actors. A lot of the priests in the movie were not actors. They were real priests. He wanted kind of an authenticity. So he had real priests in it. In fact, at the very end of the movie, there is a scene with a priest at the dead body of Father Karras who gives him his last rites, and he's shaking and crying. And that's because Friedkin slapped the shit out of a real priest before he slapped the shit out of the priest and then said, action. 3 o'clock in the morning, 20 degrees outside, 50th take, he beats the shit out of a priest so that he could get the priest shaking and crying. That's the take that's in the movie. So anyway, he hired a lot of people who weren't actors. Jason Miller, at that point, was a very well-known New York playwright, and who would go on that same year that The Exorcist came out to win the Pulitzer Prize and a Tony for Best Play. He won a Pulitzer Prize for that championship season. A terrific play that made its debut on Broadway. He wrote it in 1971-ish. It got up, it was put up off-Broadway, then on Broadway, became a massive success, a great play that has been produced millions of times on and off-Broadway and across the world. And his very first production of that went up. He wrote it, and he was known as a playwright. He wrote other plays and one-acts, and he was, at that point, not an actor. Never acted before in his life. Never acted before in his life before The Exorcist. Was a well-known playwright and was just on the verge of winning the Pulitzer and the Tony when he was making The Exorcist. But Friedkin wanted him, and Friedkin's got it. You know, Friedkin, he may have been a complete asshole when he was making movies in the 70s, and he was, but he knew his shit. He knew, who to cast and how to get the best performances out of him. And he wanted Jason Miller. Studio didn't want him. Nobody else wanted him. People wanted a name back in the early 70s. They wanted somebody who could draw. And in fact, Ryan O'Neal, who was the biggest box office draw at that time, his name was bandied about to play Karras. Could you imagine Ryan O'Neal playing Father Karras? Anyway, so Miller reluctantly said, okay, I'll do it. And he's the only non-actor in the movie that had a huge part. And he's better than everybody in the movie. Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, Linda Blair. Well, Linda Blair was new. But Ellen Burstyn and Max von Sydow were seasoned, tuned actors who had won awards before that. And here's Jason Miller blowing him off the screen. There are scenes in that movie that are devastating. The scene where he's crying after his mother's death in his dorm room, just drinking when the other priest comes by to stop by with him. All of the scenes where he's conflicted. There is an unbelievable scene between Max von Sydow and Jason Miller, which has been cut down drastically. But in the director's cut, there's a scene where they talk about why this little girl has been chosen to be possessed by this demon. That is remarkable. There are scenes in the movie where he's arguing with the church, where he's arguing with Ellen Burstyn, and he just is this tired, haggard character whose soul is being sucked out of him, and you can see it physically. There are moments in the movie where there are shots of him where his eyes are darkened and he's just this hollow figure of a man. Beautifully shot by Owen Roizman, beautifully directed by William Friedkin, and William Peter Blatty's screenplay is amazing. But Jason Miller, it's a heartbreaking, devastating, deep, significant performance, and it's the core of the movie. At the end of the movie, when the demon goes into him, and he struggles and jumps out of the window to sacrifice himself and kills himself tumbling down those stairs, it's an emotional breakdown for me every time I watch it. The quiet scenes with just him talking, the scenes with Lee J. Cobb, where he and Lee J. Cobb talk about going to the movies, and that's another amazing actor, Lee J. Cobb, another seasoned, incredible veteran, who Jason Miller goes toe-to-toe with. He's in scenes with Lee J. Cobb, he's in scenes with Max von Sydow, he's in scenes with Ellen Burstyn, and he's just as good, if not better, than those amazing actors. It's a heartbreaking, beautiful, beautiful performance, and I think it doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Now, Jason Miller would go on to do other movies. He did some TV movies here and there. He did some horror stuff because that's what was offered after The Exorcist. He did a vampire movie with Richard Lynch called Vampire, which was a TV movie. He played a priest in that. He was in a couple of movies with the word devil in the title, even if they weren't Exorcist related. He would appear in The Ninth Configuration, which was William Peter Blatty's insane movie about an insane asylum with Stacy Keach, an extraordinarily crazy movie with a whacked out, awesome performance by Jason Miller. And he was in Nickel Ride, which is this terrific mob, sort of low-level mobster movie directed by the great Robert Mulligan that he did in 1974, which was the follow-up that he did to The Exorcist. And he did Nickel Ride in late 1974, and he's great in that. And he came back and played Karras again, although in an altered, weird way. He played Father Karras again in William Peter Blatty's Exorcist 3, which came out in 1990. Exorcist 3, as good as the original Exorcist. A fucking great movie. If you're like, nah, I don't want to see it. Exorcist 2 was bad. I don't want to see Exorcist 3. And the other Exorcists that came out, in the late 90s and early 2000s are bad too. Exorcist 3 is a great movie. Not only is it smart and really deep and weird and awesome, and just there's a lot going on, a very intellectual, really significant horror film. George C. Scott, great in it. But Jason Miller comes back. Brad Dourif, by the way, in Exorcist 3, gives one of the greatest performances in the history of horror cinema, ever. Brad Dourif in Exorcist 3, one of the best performances ever. And Miller comes back to that. But he never really did, he didn't do a ton of movies. He died relatively young. And he would go on to write a few more plays, and that championship season would go on to be considered a classic and go on to win more awards, and posthumously he would get, inducted into a Hall of Fame. And that championship season is a play that continues to be produced around the world. And so he's known for that as a great playwright who gave some good performances in some really good movies, but a great performance in The Exorcist. He is also the father of Jason Patric from his first wife. His first wife is the daughter of Jackie Gleason. So Jason Patric, I don't know if you know this or not, Jason Patric, not only is his dad Jason Miller from The Exorcist, but his grandfather is Jackie Gleason. Yes, Jason Patric from The Lost Boys and from Speed 2 and from Geronimo. That is Jackie Gleason's grandson, and Jason Miller is his father. Jason Miller is also the father of Joshua Miller, who was the weird little kid from River's Edge and the weird little vampire kid from Near Dark. That's also the son of Jason Miller, and Josh Miller would go on also to be a very successful playwright in and of his own, just like his dad was. So he is the father of Jason Patric and Joshua Miller. He did amazing playwright stuff. He won a Tony. He won a Pulitzer Prize. He was nominated for the first role he ever had as Best Supporting Actor for The Exorcist, and he was nominated for an Oscar for that. And then he would do sporadic roles here and there. But the first role he did, never acted before in his life. Next time you watch The Exorcist, Jason Miller as Damien Karras, that's the first movie he ever did. He never acted ever before that movie, and he blows everybody off the screen. It's one of my favorite performances ever. It is the heart, the soul, the core, the heartbeat of The Exorcist. The reason that you are emotionally involved in that movie has everything to do with the character of Damien Karras, and even more so to do with Jason Miller's unbelievable performance in that movie. So, this is the first one. I'll do many more. There are so many great performances out there that have gone underappreciated over the years, and I just want to shine a spotlight on some really great film performances that should be remembered more. So the first one, Jason Miller as Damien Karras in The Exorcist. One of the greatest performances ever, and the reason why The Exorcist is an emotional powerhouse is because of him. So anyway, all right. Go see some more, rent some more movies. If you haven't seen The Exorcist in a while, watch it again and realize that this guy is not an actor. That was his first movie ever. Anyway, Jason Miller, The Exorcist, extraordinary performance. Okay, hey, enjoy your face.